right, Chair recognizes Mr. Crane from Arizona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to everybody on the panel for showing up today and holding this hearing. We're obviously here to conduct critical oversight about the inefficiencies within the federal government surrounding telework policy. Most Americans are aware of this practice, but for those who aren't, it's basically when employees are allowed not to come into the office and they're allowed to work from home. One of the troubling parts of the data in front of us is how even after the COVID pandemic, federal employees were not forced to come back to work under the Biden administration. Another troubling thing that we've learned about is that Mr. O'Malley, who sits in front of us today and is the former head of Social Security, signed a contract with the labor union right before resigning. This contract, which was signed after the 2024 presidential election, would allow 98% of federal workers within Social Security workforce, nearly 60,000 people, to work remotely over the next 4 years. This lasts the entirety of the Trump administration, which goes completely against the American people's mandate to root out inefficiencies in Washington and become better stewards of American taxpayer money. Clearly, Mr. O'Malley, now that he's retired, will not have to oversee or be responsible for any of the inefficiencies or lack of productivity within that agency. Now let's zoom out for a minute real quick. Let's look at the context of the time that we live in, where 80% of Americans do not trust the federal government. And it's exposing evidence like we are today that adds to the overwhelming distrust of the federal government and bureaucrats like Mr. O'Malley. Let's also take a moment to recognize the economic issues that Americans are dealing with right now. 36% of Americans are working multiple jobs to make ends meet. My constituents in Arizona are paying around 26% more every month for the same goods and services compared to 2021 when President Biden took office. Most importantly, our federal government is now $36 trillion and counting in debt. So while Americans go back to work, they also have to suffer from inefficiencies and reckless decision-making of bureaucrats like Mr. O'Malley. Numerous federal buildings here in Washington, D.C. are empty. These buildings are only 25% occupied, with the lease, electricity, and utilities still being paid on the taxpayer's dime. The lights are on, but no one is home. This is costing the American taxpayer an estimated $15 billion annually. Now, Democrats in the hearing today will tell you that telework policies of the federal government in some surveys are less than counterparts in the private sector, trying to show that everything's okay and there's nothing to see here. Well, let's be honest, that's not quite a fair comparison. Number one, it's much more difficult to fire a federal employee if it is discovered they are gaming the system. Number two, federal employees are paid by the taxpayer, whereas private employees are not. Private companies have to be efficient and profitable to pay employees. I'm going to start my questions now. Mr. O'Malley, I was reading through your bio. It looks like you served as member of Baltimore City Council, mayor of Baltimore, and governor of Maryland. You also said here today that you ran your own law firm. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You're under oath today. Is that correct, Mr. O'Malley, to tell the truth?
I said yes, sir.
Okay, great. When you owned your own law firm, Mr. O'Malley, did most of your employees work in the office or from home?
Oh, it was a very small firm.
That's not what I asked you, sir.
Well, I didn't have any employees.
You didn't have any employees?
No.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Got it.
When I joined another firm, there was a larger number of employees, but I wasn't managing.
Follow up real quick. So you didn't have any employees, right? That's what you just said?
That's true.
It was just you?
In my solo practice, I did not. I was also on the city council at the time.
Okay, let's play a hypothetical then, Mr. O'Malley, because I clearly tell you have some common sense. You're a smart man, or you wouldn't be in that seat. If you did have employees at this business that you own, what would be some of the advantages of having them come into the office?
Congressman, I readily admit that, and that's why I brought more people on campus, on site at Social Security. I believe that the people that are managing and figuring out problems like how to better serve the American people with fewer and fewer staff need to be back.
Sir, then why did you sign a contract tying President Trump's hands and really tying his hands and trying to bring back the federal workforce so that the American taxpayers can be better represented and we can have more efficiencies for their hard-earned money?
Yeah, the duration of the contract was actually something that preceded me. But what I did do was I amended it because they were the last union that did not have the balance of on-site and telework in their contract. So I did do
Thank you,
that,
thank you.
and they waived
Mr. Chairman,
also other grievances.
one last statement. I think Mr. Higgins did about as good of a job as anybody I heard, pointing out how disastrous the administration that you led has become. Holding up his phone, playing the elevator music as he called into your old agency, and he's been on hold for an hour and a half, and then showed you that if senior citizens or anybody else wants to make an appointment, they have to call that same number and wait for an hour and a half. So I'm sorry, sir, but I find it ironic and pretty sad that you come in here talking today about what a great job you've done, how efficient you've been, and how responsible you've been with the American taxpayer dollar. And because of all that, sir, I actually think you'll do a great job as a DNC chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman's time's expired.